Greetings, everyone in across the land. It is another episode of the Casual Movie Club. It is episode number 53 of the Casual Movie Club, and we are thrilled to pieces to have you all here. And not only am I thrilled, but I'm sure I speak for Brian. I'm sure you're thrilled, Brian. Are you thrilled?
I'm thrilled, buddy. What's going on?
That is awesome. And Brian, it's so good to have you. But we also have a returning special guest in the studio. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages and scuba divers alike, we have the lovely, the fantastic, the person who loves the movie that we did tonight. It's Tina!
Hello, everyone. So if you ever listen to Hocus Pocus, feel free to tune out now. Just saying.
Welcome back, Tina. It is great to have you in the studio again.
It is fantastic to not be sitting in the doorway of the studio.
That's right. And once again, this week, if you couldn't tell, Brian is coming to us live via the magic of the internet. He's still on business. Where are you now? Are you in Zimbabwe now, or are you in Bolivia? I forget.
Bangladesh.
Oh, that's right, Bangladesh. Okay. How did the K2 climb go?
It went very well.
Oh, excellent.
I did not get frostbite. I moseyed on up, kind of took a little peek around, and came back down.
Excellent. Well,
just a quick day trip.
Yeah.
Just a quick day trip, moseyed on up for the day. Yeah, a quick afternoon romp.
A quick little scamper up the side of K2.
Little after work hike,
Yeah.
Lunch break hike.
Very cool. Well, we did a whopper of a movie today, and I didn't even get into the.
You can't even. I mean,
I share that sentiment though.
Wow. Okay.
This is awful.
Okay. So I think you and Brian are simpatico on this already. Okay. We did last week we were kind of figuring out what we were going to do this week, and we decided to do one of Tina's favorite movies.
I drew the short straw this week somehow.
Yeah. So we did a movie that came out in 2017, and this movie features something that Tina and I and Brian, to a certain degree, absolutely love, and that would be scuba diving. This movie is called 47 Meters Down, and it is from 2017, and I'm going to just go ahead and turn it over to Tina. Tina, what'd you think of this movie?
Not only did you force me to see it once, you forced me to see it a second time tonight, and you have forced me to see the sequel.
Why is there a sequel?
Good question. Apparently they didn't lose enough money on the first one and didn't have enough inaccuracies. The sequel's even worse.
Funny you should say that, because so I actually made some notes about that, and Brian, I want to get your opinion too in a second, but despite the fact that this movie is not a great movie, it did surprisingly well in the box office. The budget was only $5.3 million. Opening weekend,
what?
It grossed, yes.
That's way too much.
Opening weekend, it grossed $11.2 million.
Oh, my God.
And overall gross in the USA, $44 million. Cumulative worldwide gross, $62 million.
And before we get into this, let me just say that I'm part of a couple of scuba diving forums, and I know more than one person that was actually asked to be a technical expert for the scuba diving piece. Yes.
Oh, interesting.
And they ignored them. So I'm not joking. So we can get into that as we go through some things. But there were technical experts, legit professional scuba divers that had been doing it for years, male and female, that were asked to do this movie. As like I said, they were asked to be the extra divers, the safety divers, as well as the experts to give the technical advice on what was going on with the movie. And the director and artistic development. Oh, John's getting a call.
Brian, you back?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I guess we lost you.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Sorry.
So,
but the artistic development team decided just to go, nah, we won't go with realist. We'll go with what feels good, what makes good movies.
So they clearly ignored.
But did they though, Tina?
Yes, they did.
Did they go with what makes good movies?
Oh,
Because I think they ignored that also.
No, what they thought made a good movie. That's what I'm saying. They thought it would make a good movie. They were wrong.
I mean, but
yeah.
the problem is, and I don't disagree with both of you, but the problem is the money and the numbers say they did make a good movie.
SpongeBob SquarePants also made money. I mean,
people will pay to see that stuff.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. So I think it's safe to say we know how Tina feels about the movie. Brian, how did you like this movie? It seems like you're kind of...
I didn't like it. Didn't like it.
Okay.
I did. I thoroughly did not enjoy this movie. I thought it was well produced. It's very for a movie that's underwater. It's very poppy and colorful. I liked the set pieces underwater and the cage.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff they did on top. The direction seemed solid, but the writing, oh man, the writing is terrible for this. The girls are annoying. They're not relatable. I don't like them. The stakes are high, but I don't care about them. I was rooting for the sharks most of the time. They had like what felt like shoehorned in pieces of character development and drama. The conversations when they were down in the bottom of the cage and they're like, "Oh, are we competing with each other?" Blah 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 blah. Oh, I wasn't competing. I was just living my life. Like, is this the place to be having this conversation right now?
Well, yes,
like,
it's that
your leg
sisterly
is stuck in the cage.
Right.
What are you doing?
It's the sisterly bond, but also there's no indication they're going to survive this. So I guess they want to bare their souls to one another before they drown.
And I understand that sentiment, but the way it was executed felt forced and unnatural. The dialogue was piss poor.
I agree.
And then the fucking twist halfway near the end.
Which one?
The bubbles.
That's how I felt.
In the brain.
Fucking Jacob's Ladder scenario.
Oh, God.
Okay, so I have my things to ask Brian. So I have one thing I'd like to ask you, Brian.
Yeah.
Do you think this movie will deter people from scuba diving?
No, not at all.
Okay.
No, the reason I think that is, unlike Jaws, which deterred people from going to the beach for a while,
right? I
think with enough sharks in pop culture, Jaws 2, Jaws 3D, Piranha 3D, the other movie called Open Water, I think this has just been in the we've not been inured to like shark movies, but I don't think that in my estimation, the things that went wrong in this movie weren't enough to deter people to go scuba diving.
Okay, that's fair. Tina, what do you think? Do you think this movie will deter people from scuba diving?
I think it will be an excuse for people that already were afraid of scuba diving to not try it.
Yeah.
But the people that really want to do it, no.
Yeah.
Because if you go with any reputable instructor and voicing a concern related to this movie, first of all, they'll roll their eyes and almost pass out.
Right.
Because this movie is just awful. But they'll talk to you about, the real nature of sharks and everything else and just actually educate you.
Right.
On everything. And, I mean, scuba diving is not for everybody.
Right.
It just isn't. And that's okay. But if you really want to try it, even during the movie, there's scarier things down there than sharks.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's she went in that cave, and I remember telling you I'd be more scared of an eel in that cave than that shark.
Yeah. Or venomous fish.
Or venomous snakes.
Yeah.
Banded snakes.
Yeah. I mean, the way that Hollywood portrays sharks in any of these movies is so erroneous, and we can put that to bed right now,
Get me surrounded by some giant nesting triggerfish and I'll be freaked out. They're mean and they got teeth and they do bite.
Yeah.
I'm more afraid of them than sharks.
Right. And sharks just like most, life, are going to defend themselves when they're attacked. But for the most part, they don't give a shit that you're down there.
You're not food.
Right. If you go and start smacking a shark in the face, it's going to defend itself because it's going to think you're attacking it. But if you're just swimming along, blowing some bubbles, they really don't give a shit that you're down there. And one of the first things go ahead, Brian.
I was just going to say that also sharks don't really like the taste of humans either. That's
interesting.
Documented. Like the sharks will a lot of shark attacks where people survive are because the shark mistaken you for like a seal or something.
Yeah.
They'll come up, they'll bite at you a couple of times, but they don't finish the job because they realize you're not what they thought they were. You don't taste good, and away they go.
Yeah, usually.
Now, not all sharks are going to be like that, but
most of them, right?
Sharks aren't really going to go out of their way to eat people on purpose,
right?
Unless they mistake us from like the bottom up through our silhouettes, so we look like seals or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, most shark attacks are just a test bite of what are you.
Yeah, which is why a lot of shark attacks involve like biting legs, right?
Yeah, and surfers.
Yeah.
Because you do look like a seal.
Yeah. So one thing I want to get into here is something I wrote down in my notes called scuba red flags and inaccuracies.
Oh.
Something that so for a little context, Tina and I are dive buddies. We dive a lot together. We actually met through scuba diving, and Brian and I have dove a little bit. But Brian, you want to do some more diving, right? At some point.
At some point, yeah. I really enjoyed my outings out. I think I'm pretty good at it.
To be honest, you did a good job. I'm going to go on a little sidetrack for a second. Those that are interested in scuba diving, by the way, do a Google search for a local dive shop in your area and look for an experience called Discover Scuba Dive. That's for a non-certified diver. If you've never done it before, it's a great sort of introduction to the sport of scuba diving. And that's what I did with Brian, actually. One of the instructors from my local shop met us out at our lake here, and we did a little about a 45-minute dive or something, and about halfway through it, Brian was looking like a pro.
Nice.
Yeah. Now, granted, I was a huge swimmer in my younger years.
Yeah.
I swam competitively in high school, so I take the water pretty naturally. But never have I scuba dove before, and it was a little jarring at first to get used to breathing in the water.
Yeah.
But once you went, that took me like 2 or 3 minutes to get the hang of, and once I got past that, it was easy breezy.
Yeah. Or easy breathy, right?
Ha ha.
Sorry. All right.
Nice.
Bad pun.
So before you go into the inaccuracies, I just want to start by saying the opening of the movie starts out as a ripoff. So if you listen to the theme song of the movie, it's a freaking Jaws ripoff.
Really?
If you listen,
I never noticed that.
I didn't notice that either.
If you listen to it, it's got the same undertones as the Jaws theme. It's not the same dun-it, but if you listen to it, it's a little bit different tone,
right?
But it's got that same thumping, and it's a Jaws ripoff. It starts out that way.
That's interesting.
Friggin' movie. I hate this movie.
Really? We had no idea.
Yeah. Oh.
All right. Shall we run through some of the scuba red flags and inaccuracies?
Oh, let's please.
All right.
Okay. So my first few I wrote as red flags. So like for me as a diver, if I was in this situation, I'm not going to say in this movie, but in this situation, the fact that number one, that this dive operation was just being run by some guy, not through a reputable dive shop, that's a big old red flag.
Yeah, that's
I want to see. I want to go to a dive shop before I get on a dive boat. I want to see a PADI and NAUI, SSI, any of those logos. I want to see them on there. If it's a PADI dive shop, I want to see that they're a 5-star excellence, whatever they call it.
Well, that's for teaching, but yeah.
Right, but I mean, pretty much every PADI dive shop I've been to says 5-star, whatever.
Yeah, because it's an instructor center.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to see something like that. I found it weird that they paid no mind to the one diver not being certified. They basically just said, you know how to scuba dive, right? And she's like, yeah.
Okay, so I want to stop right there because that was a huge red flag.
Yeah.
First of all, the sister that was like, oh, I know you don't know how to dive, but it'll be okay. I'll show you everything.
Yeah.
No. Real
She didn't show her shit.
I'm sorry, but yeah. First of all, her sister is shitty manipulative.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and secondly...
Yes, I wrote that down too!
And secondly, I don't know any decent diver, that would encourage anybody that is not certified to dive with them or to do it. Absolutely not. I don't dive with unsafe people, and I have never met anybody that would say, oh, you're not certified? I'll teach you in shark-infested waters in a cage going 47 meters down eventually. Hey.
Yeah, that, and I would never take someone that was that freaked out and that nervous.
No.
Never bring them in the water. If you've got someone that's that's visibly shaken and just terrified, there's no legitimate amount of coaxing is going to make them switch off and come in.
No, scuba diving's mental.
It is. And, I went diving with another friend of mine once who it took him, he really wanted to, but he was very, very nervous when we got in the water. So, the instructor actually went down with him and it took him about 10 minutes to get down about 60 feet. But once we got down, he loved it, But the reason I'm saying that is someone that is as, visibly shaken and terrified as Lisa, who is Mandy Moore, played by Mandy Moore, should not have been in the water in the first place. No. But even then, she should have had an instructor with her.
Yeah, why were they allowed to get in? First of all, why did they get out in that rusty looking boat?
Oh,
second of all, why?
I wrote down it was a shitty dive boat in a rusted shark cage.
Yeah, I would have said first of all, I'm not.
And then why were they allowed to get into that cage without an instructor?
Right.
And what were the guys doing? Why were the guys on the boat still? Wasn't this their trip? Dudes,
the two guys who went first. They went down, and they were only down there for like 5 minutes. And then they came back up and let the ladies go, right?
They didn't even go in the cage. I don't remember even seeing them go into the cage, though.
Yeah, they went first.
Yeah, but they did go in the cage.
Because that's when Kate, the guys were down in the cage, and they were talking about sharks, and Kate had to go get Lisa out of the bathroom.
Right.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And then that's when she was like, oh, freaked out. I can't do this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, one of the major rules of diving is you never dive alone. You always dive with a buddy. And with that being said, you and your buddy, when it comes to feeling good about the dive, if one doesn't want to go, the other doesn't go.
Yep.
So if, it would be a bummer. But like if Tina and I were getting ready to go for a dive and Tina said, you know what, something's weird in my nose, I don't feel up to going, no problem. Because you have to dive with somebody, but also you have to respect someone else's gut feeling. If they don't feel like they can do it or they don't want to do it or something's keeping them there, don't force them. Scuba diving is not for everyone, like Tina said, but it's also not something you want to force somebody into doing. Someone really should go in and go down because they want to.
Right. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Another thing, now this is a big issue I have with this movie. How are they having an entire conversation 47 meters down below the surface when their ears are out in the water? There would be absolutely no way for the two of them to have a conversation with each other.
So
unless they had an earpiece, because there is a way to do it with there is a full face mask that you can get with a regulator built in that actually has a comm unit, but the comm unit covers your ear.
And it's separate.
Right.
Are those masks real? So
yes.
those are like
yes.
Those I could go out and get that mask if I wanted to.
Yes. They're about the base unit is about $700. It's a full face mask.
Okay, because
right.
Yes. I had the same notes, John. Like, what is this mask that they're wearing, and how can they hear each other?
So now the comm unit is a separate price that
separate module
that puts you up to about $1,000 or $1,200.
Yeah,
but like John said, they had no earpiece. What were they listening with?
Yeah.
Seriously? I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So dumb.
Without going into too much technical detail about the scuba aspect of it, but the air consumption
I knew we were gonna
is
go there.
completely erroneous. Being down that deep, and just for those non-divers, the deeper you go, the faster you consume your air. So if you're down, if that cage was fine and never broke free, and they were down about 5 meters, 15 feet, they'd have been able to stay under for 2.5 hours.
It depends on how fast you breathe.
A long time. Going down to 147 meters, which is about 47 meters, which is about 150 feet.
You got 10 minutes on it.
10 minutes, 15 tops.
Maybe.
But the movie was an hour and an hour and a half.
And most of it was under the water, yeah.
Right, and most of it was under the water, and most of it was on the one tank. They didn't change
tanks. Hang on. Was the movie really an hour and a half? Because we have Mandy Moore with her Jacob's Ladder scenario going on. How much
what
time?
What do you mean Jacob's Ladder?
Was
I'm not getting the reference.
The fake. So the ending where she was narked.
Oh, right.
Yeah, but even then, it took the Coast Guard an hour to get there.
Right.
So she would have been dead.
Right.
Even before they came down with the other winch, she would have been dead.
Yeah. Oh, not to mention.
Oh Lord.
The initial descent. The cage plummeted so fast they couldn't clear. Their eardrums would have ruptured.
Yeah, they would have had bloody noses, bloody ears. They would have passed out.
Yeah. And their ears would have been hurting like a bitch.
No, they wouldn't have heard anything. They would have had busted eardrums. They wouldn't have been hearing nothing.
But their ears would hurt, though.
Oh, yeah.
They'd be in a tremendous amount of pain. Because I remember the very first dive that I did, I was in St. Thomas. I'll never forget this because we only went down to about 40 feet. I could not equalize my ears because I didn't know how I had to equalize. And, usually people say you pinch your nose and breathe out. For me, all I have to do is swallow. When I swallow, it instantly clears my passages and everything's cool. I didn't know to do that, so I'm panicking because I'm down about 10, 15 feet, and my ears are hurting really, 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 really bad. And I'm freaking out, and the instructor's trying to get me to calm down and everything. But as soon as I swallowed and I felt that, that instant clear, everything was fine. So when that cage was plummeting down at that rate, there's no way they would have been able to clear fast enough.
No, because, and plus at that rate, you've got 4 atmospheres of pressure on you.
Right.
Because you're below 99 feet. So
right.
You've got trying to breathe is harder. That's why you use more air.
Right.
But so something else before they even went down.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed it or not, but the gauges are on the wrong side.
Oh, yeah.
And just hanging loose. The gauges are completely on the wrong side. They're supposed to be on the left side.
Right.
So for those of you that don't know, your gauges are on the left. And then, of course, they have a full face mask, so they don't really have an octopus. But your regulator and your octopus are on your right side.
Right. And for those non-divers, the octopus is the spare mouthpiece. So
spare regulator.
If you see I'm saying mouthpiece just to use a general term. Yeah. But, if you look at a scuba diver, on the diver's left is their gauges, like Tina was saying. And then on the right side is their spare regulator. Oh, I think we lost Brian again.
Oh,
no. No, I'm still here.
Okay, that's weird. It seems like it dropped the connection.
Yeah.
Okay. So the right side of the diver is where they have their spare mouthpiece for an emergency for another diver to use it. But you're right. The gauges were on the wrong side, and the gauges also looked egregiously fake.
Y'all think?
And most divers worth their salt would always have an analog set of gauges. Like in my rig, I have analog gauges that are attached to my regulator, and then I have my dive computer is digital, obviously. That's what I kind of dive with, but I have the analog gauges as a backup.
I do too.
I don't know any divers that only use digital gauges, but I'm sure there's
a few.
I'm sure there's some.
Yeah. So before all the crap happened, Mandy Moore's character, Lisa, was concerned, does my butt at least look cute in this? Really? I mean, come on. That's freaking annoying. Like you said, Brian, they're both annoying.
Yeah.
Can I say it? I kind of wanted them to drown because they were whiny and annoying and...
Yeah, and I agree
Tina,
with Brian
Tina, I was rooting for the shark, so
I was too.
I'm right there with you.
Not relatable at all.
No.
The two were not relatable.
I mean, and then they're going down and a shark all of a sudden comes up and eats the freaking camera.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I wrote that down. That Reminded me of Deep Blue Sea.
Exactly. I mean, a shark is not going to eat a camera. It knows. It knows.
Yeah, sharks are not dumb.
No. They're an apex predator for a reason. It's not going to come up and eat a freaking camera. Oh, my Lord. Okay, so now we're back up to Cage falling, going down. Boo-hoo.
Yeah.
Sorry, more inaccuracies.
Let's see. Oh, and I got this from IMDb Goofs. The girls were told to do a 5-minute decompression stop at 20 meters, 60 feet. At the depth they were, and with the amount of time they were underwater, this would not be sufficient, and an additional safety stop would be needed at 5 meters. Instead, they were told to swim directly to the surface. This would have killed them due to decompression sickness.
Yeah.
Which I find it funny, because any diver that I've talked to, they don't call it the bends.
No.
Like, divers call it decompression sickness.
I've always heard it called the bends. I've never heard it called anything else.
It's kind of a buzzword. Mm-hmm. Like, because when you go through dive training, they teach you a lot about what decompression sickness is, and it's Tina, would you agree and say that, like, kind of calling it decompression sickness is almost like admitting, it's kind of like showing that you understand it and kind of take it seriously, as opposed to calling it the bends, which is kind of like a casual term?
It is. A lot of people, they don't know what the bends is, but when you say something like decompression sickness, that's actually a medical term.
Right.
And by the way, decompression sickness is not nitrogen bubbles in your brain.
It's nitrogen bubbles in your organs.
It's nitrogen bubbles in your blood.
Right.
And I know divers that have had it. You don't die automatically if you get decompression sickness. You do sometimes have to go to a hyperbaric chamber. It just depends on.
It's treatable.
It is treatable. You have to get it treated, but because again, if the nitrogen bubbles do get to your brain, you will die.
Right.
I mean, people have died from decompression sickness, but I've heard it both.
Yeah.
I've heard both. I've heard it being called the bends, and I've heard it called decompression sickness.
Yeah.
And I think the dive community calls it decompression sickness to move away from the casual diver, surfer boy.
Yeah.
It's all good, kind of, you don't need a certification mentality. And those, unfortunately, were the ones that called it the bends.
Right. It's kind of just treating it with reverence in a way.
Giving it legit.
Yeah.
Like making it a legitimate issue and not holding it lightly. Because it's not. It's not something that
Yeah.
That could kill you. So, yeah, I mean, take it seriously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not that I want to, I mean, I know that Tina was relishing every moment, every opportunity she could get to shit on this movie.
Oh, yes.
I do want to say one thing the movie did get right is the first couple of minutes when the two girls were underwater and how Lisa, was it Lisa who's the nervous one?
Yes.
Yeah. Lisa was like all like in awe and like amazed at how it was and everything. Like
that does do that to you.
She was like so scared to get down underwater. Then she got in the water and she was like, oh wow, this is amazing. It's so cool. Divers that I've gone diving with who had never dove before had told me about similar reactions they had to right when they got down and they got comfortable with it. So that sort of example of that was right. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But now to go back to shitting on the movie.
Go ahead.
Not diving
yes.
related.
Would you agree with that, Brian, by the way?
I had my first dive wasn't filled with whimsical and wonder. Like Lisa's were, but I was.
But I'm saying, would you say that once you got in the water and you got underwater and you got used to breathing, was there some degree of awe and kind of like wow?
Totally.
Okay.
Totally.
So I mean,
yes.
I know we're shitting on the movie. I want to give some redemption factor to it.
And that's enough of that because that's all there is.
Go ahead.
So I want to actually kind of go. I want to kind of go away from the scuba diving. So people that don't scuba dive and don't care, don't watch this movie.
We're only 30 minutes into the recording already.
Yeah,
too, so.
hey. So
we got to cater to the non-divers.
Yeah, So, just general saltwater kind of thing. Why aren't
I wrote this down too.
When she takes off her BCD, why is she not floating? I am buoyant as a buoy in salt water. Like, I have to have extra weight to get me down and scuba dive.
Were they even wearing weights?
Well, they were both small enough. They had their tanks, so that would have. And plus, being in a cage, you really don't need weights.
Right, but wouldn't they have, like you said, wouldn't they have floated up as soon as they took the BCD off?
They would have floated, and they were walking on the bottom. What?
And why were they not wearing fins?
Well, because you're caged out.
Which would they be wearing fins if they're going in the cage for like 10 minutes?
No, you don't wear fins in the cage. You don't.
I wrote that down too, and I was like, I guess I can forgive this.
Yeah, I can see that cage diving. I haven't been cage diving, so maybe some people do, but I can see where you wouldn't wear fins in a cage dive. I get that, and where you wouldn't necessarily have weights.
Yeah.
And again, they're small enough. The tank would have been sufficient weight in a cage to keep them down, because it had everything going right. They wouldn't have had to worry about uncontrolled descents. Right. Because they were in a freaking cage. They can only go to the top of the cage. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, hello. So when they get all the way down to the bottom, where are the fish? There are fish that are deep. Fish.
Yeah, that's true.
There's nothing but the sharks.
There was no sharks. There was no plant life, no corals, no nothing.
Nothing. There was nothing.
Yeah.
There were no other animals.
There were a couple of rocks.
Ooh.
A couple of rocks. This girl, Kate, Lisa, I lost track of who was who.
The nervous
one of them just got herself trying to get away from the one of the sharks. She got herself stuck in like a cave system where a shark was trying to come in after her.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the shark almost got me. Really?
And the shark, when it bit the cage the first time, when the shark first made their appearance, you could see that it was like a dude in a rubber suit because its neck was folding in on itself.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, you could see.
I wish I got a screenshot of it. It was like the shark's first appearance when they were pulling the cage closed to keep the shark from getting in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
not
then
that they will ever watch this movie again, but if you happen to.
Oh, I'm not watching it with him if he does.
I didn't hate the movie as much as the both of you did, because I did find it entertaining. And one of the notes I wrote down was, even if you're not if you're not a certified diver, where did I write this? Oh yeah, if we weren't scuba divers and not nitpicking this movie and ripping it apart, there are some legitimately scary parts. Like, it's an entertaining horror movie if you don't rip it apart.
Is it a horror movie though?
Or a
I mean,
thriller?
I'm horrified at the story that they put out. Yeah. But I wasn't horrified at any of the situations. If you're looking for
entertainment, the entertainment factor and suspension of disbelief, and if you're not a diver, and if you're looking for something to entertain you, this movie is entertaining.
If you have nothing else going on...
This is not for me. I'm not the audience for this movie.
That's fine.
If you have nothing else going on, and you have absolutely no taste in movies, sure, it's entertaining.
And you're not a diver.
Yep.
Well, yeah, of course you couldn't be a diver.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't consider myself to be a diver. I've not gone on enough dives to consider myself a diver.
You've gone on one dive,
I just haven't. What's that?
You've gone on one dive.
Yeah, so I would not consider myself to be a diver.
Right, and that's okay. That's okay, but you've done it before, so you have that relevant experience.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, who is this movie for, though?
It's for people who aren't scuba divers that want to be entertained about scuba diving.
That also
I want to be entertained, and I wasn't.
Well, okay, so here's a line. I want to go more inaccuracies that really aren't scuba diving related. She goes, "I'm going to suffocate." No, you're going to drown. Little bit of a difference. You run out of air, you suck in water. That's called drowning, honey, not suffocating.
But if she left the full face mask on and ran out of air, wouldn't she suffocate because there's no air in there?
She would, but your survival instinct would take it off. So she's going to die by drowning.
Okay. There's another inaccuracy in the very beginning before they even do any diving, and she's like, "I could stay here all night." And it's morning.
Yeah, it's 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, and she's like, "I could stay here all night," and it's 10 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. So,
and what the hell were these girls doing going out in Mexico clubbing after 1 a.m. without any any dudes?
And drinking on top of that?
Yeah.
And drinking
drinks.
on top of that?
Uh-huh.
Oh, and you're not supposed to drink before you go scuba diving.
Exactly.
Rape City.
Yeah. Okay, so I also want to say they're air tanks, not oxygen tanks.
Yes. Oh my God. Because oxygen is toxic below like 20 feet.
Wait. What? I don't know about this.
Oh.
Tell me.
Okay, so it is a
common misconception.
Yeah. So what you dive with is actually the air we breathe, which is a nitrogen mix.
Right. So right now, Tina, me, and you, Brian, we are all breathing air that is actually way more nitrogen than oxygen.
And when you go, and so they're not oxygen tanks. If you were to take an actual oxygen tank down with you, you would kill yourself.
Yeah. Oxygen is toxic below what, 20 feet, 30 feet?
I think it's the first atmosphere, so it's like 33 feet. Yeah. So you will kill yourself. You'll get oxygen toxicity. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
Even in hospitals, the oxygen they use is a percentage of oxygen. Right. Now, there is 100% they do use that, but they don't use it for long.
Right.
Because your body does go through oxygen toxicity.
Right.
So they are air tanks. And, so I think we wrote the next couple of things down since I'm on the oxygen thing.
Oh, I loved the shark punctured my BCD. I'm losing oxygen.
Yeah. Okay. First of all,
I thought of you guys when she said that.
Yeah.
Oh God.
For those of you that aren't scuba divers, your BCD is the vest they were wearing that had the word Cressy on it, which is a reputable brand, by the way. I'm so sorry, Cressy.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Cressy.
So sorry.
Cressy makes really good stuff.
Yeah, I actually use a Cressy BCD. But anyway, that's what you use you add air into it to control your buoyancy underwater. However, air does not freely flow from your tank into your BCD.
And so you don't breathe from your BCD.
Exactly. And so even if it were punctured, you would lose the air in your BCD, but that's it. That is it.
And there's so little air in there compared to what's in your tank. So even if you did lose the air in your BCD, yeah, maybe you'd sink a little bit, but I mean, at that point, you're going to end your dive, drop your weights, and go to the surface, or your buddy's going to help you do a smooth and slow ascent to the surface. So, like, if your BCD gets punctured, okay.
Yeah, and speaking of BCDs, they're not the jaws of life. Okay? It's not going to lift up a steel cage.
Yeah.
It's just not. It's just not.
The average BCD has like, 15 to 20 pounds of lift capacity?
It depends on the BCD. I mean,
the average,
ish.
Yeah, so we'll say 20 pounds. That cage probably weighed about 400 or 500 pounds.
Probably more than that.
So
yeah, but
no way that thing is gonna even make a dent. Conceptually, though, they could have, if they were bringing salvage divers in and they had to try and lift it, they could have used lift bags because lift bags are designed to lift a lot of that, but they would need probably 10 lift bags to even get the thing to move.
And more tanks and everything.
Right.
Yeah, it actually probably wouldn't be feasible. But.
Right. But so, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I can actually put my phone away because I stopped taking notes after that because the rest of it just...
I just gave up.
I just gave up.
You gave up as soon as the movie began. What are you talking about?
I gave up when I got here. I mean, you didn't even have the movie on, so yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. All right. Do we have anything else we want to say about this, or are we ready to do some numbers? Do we have any more shitting to do on this movie before we do some numbers?
Let me see here. We talked about them pressuring each other, manipulation. Here's a question. So the timeline splits when Mandy Moore harpoons her hand, right?
Yes.
The cage falls on her leg, and she harpoons her hand, and she starts going into her dream sequence.
Actually, no. So it splits when she switches tanks. Because remember how he warned them about the dangers of nitrogen narcosis increased dramatically when you use another tank, which that's something Yeah. So when she switched the tank, she magically became narked. Which
that's bullshit. Just like 90%
just another
of this
mark.
movie.
Yeah, just another mark against this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's when it split, though. She had already harpooned her hand, and then of course she used the harpoon to like wrangle the tank, and she switched the tank, and at that point is when she became narked, and that's when it splits.
Right.
But before that, she tried to use her BCD to lift up the cage to get her leg out.
And then scraped her leg open, which in salt water would have hurt like a bitch.
Yeah, but she didn't have a scraped leg, so
I
it
wrote
must
that
have
down
happened.
too.
But she must have gotten narked before then because she didn't.
Right.
They had to lift the cage off of her.
Right.
So I guess. Yeah.
How does that work? That exact right there, Tina, right there. That's where the timeline confuses me because I was writing down things as they were happening. And I wrote down, is she going to saw her leg off like in the movie Saw? Then get the bends and die, and then right after that, LOL, spear gun to the hand. She's going to bleed out. And then my next note after that is she would not have the know-how, the energy, or anything to reconnect that tank. Just go to sleep and die.
Right, because she's an non-certified, inexperienced diver
in a panic situation. On top of that,
right. So how is she going to know how to change the regulator? Not to mention, by the way, you cannot do that in the water.
No.
You cannot change a regulator in the water, because if you have a regulator exposed, the first stage regulator, which is what attaches to the tank, if that's exposed to water, you run the risk of basically breaking the regulator, essentially. So what the dive master should have done from the boat. Oh, and there was no dive master on this. What the captain?
There was no dive master
on the boat.
Just some.
Yeah, some dude. What he should have done was he should have sent the tanks down with spare regulators, but then they would not have known how to swap the regulators out in their full face masks.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
They were only supposed to be in the cage for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Right.
I understand the conceit. I understand like what they were going for, but it was just executed poorly.
Yeah.
But that comes back to my other point is that the timeline is confused because at the end, when she comes out of her narcosis or whatever that she's in, her hand is still harpooned, but her leg is still trapped under the cage.
Right.
So at what point did she get narked?
And how did she become unnarked enough to change out the tank? Because if she was narked,
right,
and didn't do the
That's
BCD,
what I'm saying.
How did she get her senses back enough to change out the tank? That's not how nitrogen narcosis works. So you're right. That the timeline was completely
bogus.
I guess we could mark this up to one of the scuba diving inaccuracies. I don't know.
Maybe.
Is there one or two in this movie?
It's more of a movie inaccuracy than a scuba inaccuracy. It's a whole plot.
Yeah,
it's a whole
hole.
failure of the plot.
Well, I say scuba just
hole.
because nitrogen narcosis doesn't work that way. You don't suddenly recover and then get it again. It doesn't quite. You've got to come up and let nitrogen bubbles dissolve out of your system to actually get out of it.
Because they won't dissolve at that depth.
Exactly.
Right. And like I was saying before, they did not leave enough time to outgas all that excess nitrogen that they would have inhaled. And especially, I found it funny that it was partially accurate that Taylor told them to stay at 20 meters for 5 minutes. That's not inaccurate. They had to do some sort of a decompression stop, but they would have had to have done another one further up, about 5 meters or so for, 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes, whatever. But he just told them to dart to the surface from 20 meters, and they weren't even at 20 meters for 3 minutes. That timeline was completely off also.
Yeah. Because the shark attacked but that was part of the narcosis sequence.
Right.
So
that's true. All right.
That's all, but it's still all fucked up. I'm done. I'm done with this.
All right.
I think Brian wants to do numbers. Okay,
I think
let's do numbers.
We doing numbers?
Let's do numbers.
Let's do the numbers.
All right. So really quick here, numbers are what we have on our leaderboard for all you fantastically fun people to go and view all the different movies that we have reviewed and the scores we've given them. So if you go to our website, casualmovieclub.com, click on leaderboard at the very top, which just so happens to be right next to the Patreon button. So if you want to help us with keeping the lights on, keeping the podcast recordings happening and all that good stuff, feel free to join up on our Patreon for as little as $1 or as much as you want on a monthly basis to give us a hand. So check out our Patreon there. We have merchandise as well. We have shirts, phone cases, lots of other fun stuff. Click on the merch button on the top. But enough of the shameless plugging. You can click on the leaderboard to see where we put our scores. So, Brian, why don't you listen to me tell them about the acting. Acting is how well did the actors convey the story? How believable were they? And then we have the script, which is how well was the dialogue written? The presentation, editing, and visual effects usage, too much, not enough? Was there copious amounts of green screen? Then we have all the music and sound, the soundtrack as a whole, the sound effects, the score, the music, the
goodies for your ears. I can't do it as good as you.
No, but you can do it, though. You can do it. Uniqueness. Has this movie been done before? Have we seen it? Have we seen a movie like this from the year it came out or earlier? And then the engagement factor. Does this movie want to make you get engaged to your oh no, not that. I'm sorry. Engagement factor. Does this movie keep you engaged, or would you rather be reading Twitter or finding a local dive shop to get yourself certified to scuba dive?
Dive shop, please.
Absolutely. Well,
anything for this movie.
Speaking of dive shops.
Yes, our local one is amazing.
We need to plug our local dive shop if we can. And they're not a sponsor. Maybe we should get them to be a sponsor. But Dive World Austin, Texas. Go to diveworldaustin.com. They recently renovated, actually. The middle of last year, they renovated the store on Route 620 here in Austin. They are absolutely terrific. So I want to say hello to all the gang, Ashley and Tina. And well, you're Tina. Hi.
I say I'm Tina. Hi.
Ashley and Brittany and all the gang over at Dive World Austin.
Yes, amazing instructors. Karen, Karina, Matt, Mark, all the instructors there are just absolutely amazing.
Absolutely.
And it's like a family, and
the
new owners are great too.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Yeah, so amazing shop.
Absolutely. So okay, that being said, how about we start with Miss Tina? What would you like to give for the acting?
How about a 1.5?
Oh.
The only reason they get a 0.5 is because the pathetic factor was believable.
Okay. I I like that. All right, Brian, how about you? What you got for acting?
Acting is a 2. Surprisingly, for the same reasons, when they were panicked at the bottom, when they were hyperventilating and screaming and all that stuff, that was believable. That was some of the best acting in the film.
Yeah.
The rest of it, just the general conversations, all the stuff before the whole trip. Didn't believe it. Didn't like it. I didn't. It's a 2 for me.
A 2? Okay, that's cool. So I am at a 2.25 for acting.
What?
Yeah. Mainly for all the reasons you guys just said.
But why? But with the reasons we said are the low scores.
Yeah, you're the highest score of the three of us.
Okay, 2. I'm going back to 2.
Okay, I feel a little bit better.
Already invoking the take backsies already.
Right.
Well, okay. Does that count as my take backsies or because we
I'd say so. You just
because we haven't finished acting yet. So like as far as I understand, the take backsies is if we're at we get all the way to engagement factor, then I'm like, you know what, I want to take backsies on my acting and put it to this.
That's true. That's what it was.
Okay, yeah.
So
okay. Sure.
So now that we're done with acting, if we change it to take backsies, so I still have my take backsies. So anyway, script. Script is a 1. No, not a 1. It's going to be a 1 for me because the story sucked. The plot holes were egregious, were much aplenty. But
I love that word.
But it was about scuba diving, so I liked that.
I like dogs too, but just because there was a dog in the movie.
Hey, I have the floor. It's a 1. Brian, what do you got for script?
It's a 1. I hated all of it. I think the worst thing that this movie did was the dreams, the knocked out section, the Jacob's Ladder scenario. But for the reference, John, Jacob's Ladder is a movie where a guy has like a fever dream, and the whole movie plays out, but then in the very end you realize it was all just a dream. So that's what Jacob's Ladder scenario is, where there's a dream-like sequence that fakes you out. It was terrible. Even with that, it wasn't enough to make me care about these characters in this movie. Poorly written, dialogue awful, all the way around. Hated it. It's a 1.
All right, and Tina?
I'm right there with you guys for all the same reasons. It's a 1. And I want to come at it from a different angle. The leads were female, and I found them weak and annoying and pathetic and whiny and just no. All
right. How about presentation? What do you got for presentation?
Sadly, I'm going to have to go a little bit higher. I want to do a 2.5 on this because, like Brian had mentioned, some of the underwater scenes were actually, even though blood is not red at that level. Are you still there, Brian?
No, we're waiting.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm here. I'm here.
We've lost you a couple of times, so
yeah.
So she gave it.
It's poor hotel Wi-Fi.
Yeah. So even though blood is not actually red at the depth they were at, it's actually blue because you lose the color red. Anyway, a lot of people wouldn't know that, so I'm not gonna ding them on that. But some of it, I mean, the beach scenes and all that. Okay, I'll give them that. So I'm giving them a buy with 2.5.
All right, Brian, what do you got for presentation?
I like that. A buy with a 2.5. My presentation, and this pains me, but it's a 3 because as much as I dislike the movie, just the visual effects were decent. They were good. The gore was. I didn't know the thing about the blood that you said, Tina, about blood losing its red at that depth, but the sharks looked good, except for when the obvious rubber suit man that I called out earlier.
Look for that.
The sharks looked good. The shark attacks were good. The injuries were gruesome.
The hamburger leg.
I have to respect how well that they edited this movie together. So it's a 3. It's a 3 even.
Okay. I'm going with a 2.5 for presentation as well, mainly because I am lumping my subtraction of points. Some of the scuba inaccuracies I'm putting in the presentation. So I'm taking points off for that. But Brian, I agree with a lot of what you said. I think visually it looked good. I think they could have done better with the dressing of the set on the ocean floor. I think they were missing the fish and other aquatic life down there, so that kind of takes some points off. But apart from that, it did look pretty convincing. So 2.5 for me for presentation. Music and sound, 1.5 for me.
Wow.
And a large portion of that comes from the fact that they can't talk to each other without a legitimate earpiece, and that has to do with audio. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay.
And I'm further legitimizing that with Tina's observation of the Jaws ripoff in the music in the beginning. Mm-hmm. So there you go.
Okay.
Brian, what do you got? Music and sound.
Well, music and sound for me was I consider your point of the earpiece thing to be more of a plot hole. So I personally would put that under a fault in the script rather than music and sound. I'm looking at the score itself, the sound effects, those kinds of things, and honestly, they did an okay job. The score needed to be a string-based violins and cellos and stuff when they needed it, when the shark was there. They did a decent job with the sound effects too, and in my estimation, I'm gonna have to score the music and sound a 3.
All right, Tina.
Oh, that hurts me.
Yeah.
So I disagree. I don't think they did a great job with the music. Again, partly because it felt like a ripoff. Like they didn't do anything unique with the music. They had a couple of, like, I think only one song when they were on the boat. Oh, they had music when they were out clubbing.
Right.
But there was nothing that I couldn't turn on my dang radio and hear. Like, there was nothing unique about the music. It didn't...
I'm still here.
Okay, just making sure. It didn't add anything. And on top of that, there were some parts that actually took away. So I'm going to say a 2.
Okay. All right. And Tina, while you're in the hot seat, uniqueness.
1.
Really?
Yes.
What other movies is this like?
Shark attacking people. Jaws much? 1, 2, 3, Piranha, Deep Blue. I mean, there's been scuba diving movies, people lost at sea, people getting attacked by sharks. This theme has been done multiple times. Just because they added, maybe they took 2 themes and put them together, I don't find that unique. I mean, enough. What, they took Discovery Channel Shark Week and made it a movie? I mean, no. No.
All right. So 1 for you.
Yeah.
Brian, what do you got?
I'm with Tina on a lot of this. There's a lot of Jaws references, but I can forgive that because Jaws being such an iconic movie, you can't help but reference Jaws. So that I can forgive. But this movie is feels a lot like Open Water, the movie Open Water, but this time under the water. The only unique thing about this is the focus on the scuba diving, and they didn't even do a good job with that. I'm barely giving this a 2.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. You guys are not going to like my answer.
Oh, no.
Probably not.
Do not tell me a 3, John.
It's a 3.
Why?
Oh, why?
You have to justify that 3.
I'm about to.
Defend yourself.
So, yes, there are a lot of tropes in this movie. There's the scuba diving. There's the shark attacking. There's there's all that. But the fact that they combined those into this movie with the plot, with all its holes, and the scuba diving and the inaccuracies, yes, open water is the same idea, but like you said, open water's on the surface. This is underwater. This is a unique movie because there isn't another movie about 2 scuba divers who plummet down to the bottom of the ocean and have to figure out some way to survive. So the story does have its uniqueness. It's borrowing a lot of tropes in the mechanism of delivering it, but I think it is unique. So to me, I'm giving it a 3.
So I'll still disagree with you on that.
That's
I'm
fine.
Sorry. We can disagree. We can
Same.
agree to disagree on that.
Hey, that's fine. Trust me, this movie is not going anywhere close to the top of our list. So, you're good there.
I'm not satisfied unless it was actually close to the craft. If it was fighting the craft for the bottom. That's where it rates for me.
I don't know. What the hell happened?
I don't know.
Here we go. Okay. All right. Okay, so I guess I'm up for engagement factor, but I actually want to defer to Brian.
Why?
Just screw
it's your
things
turn.
up. All right, fine. Because I don't want to give my rating first because I feel like you guys are going to...
Okay, you can go last, John. I'll go first.
I'm kidding.
Okay.
Engagement is a 2 for me because I enjoy the entertainment value of this movie, number 1. Number 2, I love watching this movie for the inaccuracies and for picking out all the bullshit. I love nitpicking this movie, and I loved watching the sequel, 47 Meters Down, Uncaged, which doesn't even take place with a cage in it.
Well, that's because it's uncaged. This one was caged.
Yeah, okay,
this is
fine.
uncaged.
Fine. But I don't... This is... If you're someone that isn't a diver and you want to watch an interesting horror movie, this may have some engagement factor for you, but I am not the ideal audience for who they made this movie for because I'm participating in nitpicking it, and I'm a certified diver with a number of dives under my belt. So, I can't take too much off for that because I have to be somewhat objective. So that's why I'm giving it a 2.
Okay.
Tina.
Fair enough.
Well, you said I can't give negative numbers.
No, you can't.
Can I give a 0?
You can, but it has to be 0 point something. It can't be like 0.00. It's got to be 0 point something.
I'll be nice and give it a 1. I would rather watch the Dolph Lundgren He-Man over and over again than this. Okay.
Oh, wow.
That's a good movie.
It's actually pretty cute, but this was boring to me. It wasn't scary because to me it was so unbelievable. I'm not a huge gore fan. Like, my scary movies are more psychological thrillers.
Sure.
That's what scares the crap out of me. So I didn't find this as a good thriller movie, a good horror movie. There's no good. This wasn't good in any genre. Like, it wasn't a good drama. It wasn't a good action movie. It wasn't a good horror or thriller movie. It was just bad at everything. And and this was the second time I'd seen it, and I am not watching it a third time. You're on your own.
You say that now.
I say that forever.
All right. Well, Tina, what's your... so you're getting into 1. Okay.
Yes.
Brian, what is your engagement factor score?
It's a 1. This movie did not draw me in at all. I would watch this movie again only under the condition that there's a drinking game involved.
Ooh.
Uh-oh.
Would you do it for a drinking game, Tina?
Watch this movie again? You would have to give me some really good alcohol.
I have really good alcohol.
Maybe.
Okay. That's fine.
For the alcohol.
That's fine. All right. So Brian, are you good with the 1?
I'm good with the 1. There is 1, 2, 3. I wrote 4 times in my notes, this movie sucks.
So, does anybody want to invoke a take backsies? Because I am actually going to invoke a take backsies, but I want to open it up to both of y'all before I do mine.
I've got 2, 1, 3, 3, 2, 1. Man, music and sound or presentation. Yeah, I think I'm good. Yeah, I stand by my numbers.
Okay. And Tina, what do you want to do a take backsies on any of your scores?
Oh no, I'm good.
Okay. I am going to bring my uniqueness down.
Yay!
From a 3 to a 2.
Yay!
Because I was just thinking about what you were saying before, and I agree with you guys. I think, because all the stuff that this movie does combine is not enough to bring it up to a 3 for me.
Yeah, it's got some unique qualities to it, but it's, in my opinion anyway, in my estimation, it's not all that unique to... Yeah, it just has too much of other stuff in it.
Like I said, you want to see better acting, just go watch Discovery Channel Shark Week.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that has better acting in it than this movie and a better script. I mean, come on.
And there's no scuba inaccuracies.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So there we go, folks. Would we all say the numbers are in?
Numbers are in.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and scuba divers and sharks of all ages, the numbers are in for 47 meters down from 2017. Here we go. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Acting 1.83. Script 1. Presentation, the highest score of everything, 2.67. Music and sound, 2.17.
And that's your fault, Brian.
Uniqueness, 1.67.
Oh.
Engagement factor, 1.33. For a grand total of 1.78. It is now lower than the Craft. 47 meters down is 47 meters down at the bottom of our leaderboard.
I don't think I could be any happier right now.
Oh my gosh. With 3 of us, too.
Right.
With 3 of us. That's amazing.
Yep.
I hate this movie.
And I'm just going to say, like, all kidding aside, thank you for participating in the podcast this week. It really was great to have you on, and I know, like, I saw you on your phone switching back and forth between texting your friend about how much pain you were in and the notes you were taking. Thank you for coming and guest starring with us again and watching the movie and participating in this. It really was great having you on again, even though this was painful.
It's just because I love you guys.
And we love you.
Yeah.
As he cuts out.
Yeah.
Oh.
And by the way, we do have a little special that Tina's going to be coming back for again, coming up around Valentine's Day, where I will be the one in pain.
Yes, and this movie is the reason why I had to watch the sequel of 47 Meters Down. I made him watch this movie, so
yeah. So stay tuned.
It was paybacksies.
Yeah, stay tuned for that.
Yeah, it's fun.
Let's see, when's that one going to come out? You know the one I'm talking about, right, Brian?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be like 3 weeks, I think.
Something like that, yeah. So let's see. Nice. So yeah, it'll come out Thursday, February 13th. So stay tuned, folks, for a special lovey-dovey stupid movie that we're going to do.
It's not as bad as this one.
I disagree. Anyway.
You're wrong.
So next week, Brian will be back in the studio, right, Brian?
Oh, yeah. I can't wait.
So Brian will be back in the studio next week. So we're going to do a surprise movie from me next week. And then we'll go from there. So anybody else have anything you want to say before we wrap it up?
I'm sleepy.
Well, Tina's a lot happier now the movie's over and everything's... Yeah, okay. Yeah, Well, you all have a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.